Hi everyone, this is just a short little overview of citing an APA style. APA refers to the American Psychological Association, and this is the type of citation we use. This is the citation style we use for criminal justice. So a couple things to kind of start with. When do we need to cite? Well, first of all, APA uses parenthetical citations. We don't use footnotes or endnotes. Things that have to be cited. First of all, direct quotes. And here's a direct quote for you. The National Incident-Based Reporting System, NIBRS, defines statutory rape as, quote, non-forcible sexual intercourse with a person who is under the statutory age of consent. Note that the parenthetical citation includes the author, comma, the year, and that it's placed before the period and inside the direct quote. So this is a direct quote that comes directly from the page from the FBI for the 2014 NIBRS. Because it is taken word for word, we need to signal that in quotations and we need to cite it. We're basically citing anything that is not our own work. When we use statistics, even if it's not in a direct quote, statistics are treated like direct quotes and need to be cited immediately. So of the 4,716 statutory rapes reported to the police in 2013, 98.05% were completed and 1.95% were attempted statutory rapes. Now note here we do not have quote marks, but again the parenthetical citation is the author, comma, year, and it is inside, it comes before the period. Now the place where I think people have the hardest time here is with paraphrasing. So this is information that is again the result of someone else's research or someone else's work, but we're not directly quoting it. We're essentially rewording it. We also tend to think of this as information that's not common knowledge. So here we've got a good example, and it's also an example of several authors being cited, several different studies. So statutory rape relationships have higher risk of pregnancy, single parenthood, and psychosocial problems. And you can see here we've got 5 different sources that have found this. So all 5 sources are cited. Because there's multiple sources, we're using a semicolon between the sources, but we're still following the same author, comma, year. Even though there's a mistake here, there should be a comma after Tavare. So we have Lamb, Elster, and Tavare, 1986, American Guttmacher Institute, 1994, Bingham and Crockett, 1996, Cooley and Chase Lansdale, 1998, and Menlove et al., 2005. We use et al. When there's more than 4 authors. The first time we cite them, though, we use all the authors, and then after that we use et al. First author common, et space al period. Notice, though, also that these are placed in order of chronological order. We want to quote sparingly in papers. We only want to use a direct quote when there's no better way to say it. So mostly what we want to do is focus on paraphrasing. So let's look at an example of a paper, and this is a section from a paper that I have written, and it's dealing with a description of the problem, and the description of the problem is statutory rape. So there's some other things we can note in here that will help us with our papers. So for instance, the federal government has many agencies and they're often referred to by abbreviations. But before we can use an abbreviation or an acronym for something, the first time we use it, we have to spell it out and in parentheses put that abbreviation. So at the start of this, we have the Office of Juvenile Justice, Delinquency and Prevention, and then in parentheses, OJJDP. From here on out, we can refer to this office as OJJDP. Reporting descriptive statistics for statutory rapes using National Incident-Based Data Reports, NIBRS, from 1996 to 2000 for 21 states provides some additional data. The overwhelming majority of cases, 99%, involving female victims have a male perpetrator. So the source of this data is from Troop Leisure and Snyder, 2005, and because that is a statistic, we need to cite it immediately. Whenever we start a sentence with a number, we need to spell the number out instead of writing it as a number. So 88% of offenders are more than 2 years older than their victims, and the median age difference between victim and offender is 6 years. Again, this comes from Troop Leisure and Snyder. Given that the most common age of consent is 16, it is no surprise that nearly 3/5 of all victims of statutory rapes known to the police are 14 or 15. Again, same source. 18% of offenders were juveniles, and 45% of offenders were 21 or older. So again, we're spelling out 18 because it begins the sentence, but 45 can be typed as a number. The younger the victim, the more likely it is that her offender is a juvenile. Surveys of youth behavior, while not designed to address statutory rape specifically, can also shed some light on the topic. The National Survey of Family Growth, first time we're talking about this survey, from here on out we can abbreviate it as NSFG, conducted by the National Center for Health Statistics, is a retrospective descriptive study of the reproductive health of men and women aged 15 to 44. Manlove, Moore, Lichty, Ikramula, and Cottingham, 2005. So since this is the first time we're referring to the study, we need to use all the authors. From here on out, though, we'll use Manlove, et al. So here's another way we can use citations. Since I've just told you the authors, I can now just put the year of publication in parentheses. Use the 2002 NSFG data consisting of 2,509 males and 2,513 females to compare individuals who first had sex before the age of 16 with those who first had sex at 16 or older. Now note, we don't need to use a citation at the end of this sentence because we've put the citation right at the beginning. They found that only 13% of females and 5% of males report having sex before turning 16, and only half of respondents had sex before the age of 18. And now here we have that abbreviated citation, Manlove et al., 2005. So hopefully this will give you an idea of what your description of the problem should look like, as well as some information about what citations look like in an actual paper. Note there are a lot of them. So in terms of your works cited page, your sources should be listed in alphabetical order by author's last name. Do not number your sources. Titles of books and articles use sentence case capitalization. So that means the first word is capitalized and the rest are lowercase. So here we have an example of one. Sources are listed using what's called a hanging indent, so all but the first line is indented. However, we don't have to do this by hand, okay? So you can highlight the citation that you're going to use, right-click, and choose paragraph. Under indentation, as you can see here to the right, choose hanging indent, okay? And then hit OK. That will automatically indent everything after the first line. And here's a sample works cited page with the hanging indents. We can see it's in alphabetical order. Okay, we can see that it's using sentence case capitalization. We could see some other pieces here, right? So the journals are in italics. One thing you want to keep in mind is that sometimes when you use the citation that's generated within the database, that you have to go back and double check it. A lot of times it's not using sentence case capitalization. In that case, you can just do the same thing. You can highlight it, right-click, and then up at the top in Microsoft Word, there should be an option with capitalization for sentence case capitalization. So hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of what APA citation should look like.